Hey folks, welcome to the Griz Outdoors. My name is Mark Friesen, and I will be your guide through this adventure. So why the Griz Outdoors? Well, I'm a YouTuber. I've been for a couple of years. I have a YouTube channel called The Grizzly Patriot. I use that channel as an outlet, political outlet. It's a channel specifically geared toward politics. And in these strange times we're in, I needed an outlet and a platform to discuss politics, to help educate folks on some of the happenings and why things are happening in politics, especially as it relates to Canada. I am in Canada. I am from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I've been politically active for a good portion of my life. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to create the channel, The Grizzly Patriot. If you're interested in Canadian politics, this is not the channel. You'll want to go over to the Grizzly Patriot channel if politics is your interest. But I, through that activity, and it is active, it takes up a lot of my time, a lot of my energy. It is a passion, but it does take a lot of time and energy. And I decided that I would like to. It's important to have balance in life, of course, and so within the last year or so, I also run my own business. It's a tree service company, so that keeps me obviously very busy. Again, balance is very important. And so I decided within the last year or so to get more active outdoors. I love the outdoors. I love adventure. I love the water. So I've sort of made a concerted effort to reacquaint myself with the outdoors. I grew up, I was fortunate enough that my parents, when I was very young, 4 or 5 years old, decided to build a cabin in northern Saskatchewan on a fairly remote lake. And so my earliest memories go back to, and fondest memories go back to me spending time and having, ultimately, for me, it's about freedom, but having the freedom to explore the nature and explore the woods and go canoeing and fishing and hunting small game and motorbiking and all these types of activities outdoors. I lived outdoors, sun up to sundown, and into the night. I was outside. I was outside, building forts in the woods or cutting down trees for firewood or like I said, hunting small game with a slingshot or a BB gun or whatever the case may be, or out canoeing and fishing and incredibly fond memories. And to this day, when I go back into the woods and I take a smell of the pine and just the overall smell of nature and the freshness and being out on the water and catching fish and frying them on a shore lunch, it's phenomenal. It just gives me this real strong sense of peace. And so being so involved politically, and in that blood sport that is politics. In fact, I ran as a political candidate back in the last Canadian federal election in October. Being in that arena is quite stressful. I love it. It's a passion of mine, the love of my country. I consider myself a patriot of Canada, and fighting for freedom and liberty and rights and all the fundamentals that we all cherish. We have to fight for those, and we have to defend those rights and freedoms. But it's very consuming when you're in that arena. So I thought it would be important for me to sort of get a sense of peace as well. And the best place I know how to do that is in the wild and in the woods and in nature. Whether it's by myself or with somebody that's joining me or a group of people, just being in nature is phenomenally peaceful for me. It's my happy place. So I decided that I'm going to make a concerted effort to create that balance between, my business life, my political life, and then add some peace and tranquility and activity, healthy activity, to balance off those two that take up so much of my time. And so I got to give a shout out to a few folks, YouTubers, that have their YouTube channels in this regard. Bushcraft and uh, and adventuring and being in nature and being in the woods and canoe tripping and these types of things. Sean James, number one. If you're watching, Sean, thank you. You're an incredible inspiration. We're the same age. I'm 48 as well. I'll be 49 in July. But just watching your experience and listening and hearing your experience, being in business and the stresses of that and going through what you went through to get you, it sort of led you to the path that you're on now. A phenomenal story. And to watch you build your cabin from the ground up in the way that you did, very inspiring. And so just being in nature and the love of nature and living with the land instead of just off the land. I like that. Phenomenal. So kudos to you, Sean. I'd love to meet you someday. Hopefully we can make that happen at some point. Maybe a trip of some kind. Maybe I'll bring you up to Saskatchewan for a trip, canoe trip. But Sean James, fantastic, one of the top shelf guys I watch. Jim Baird and his brother Ted, another phenomenal channel. I recommend anyone who's watching this channel for the first time. I highly recommend My Self-Reliance, Sean James. He also has his Sean James YouTube, which is a little bit more the personal side of things. My Self-Reliance is more him, chronicling his experience and building his cabin and his homestead, essentially. Fantastic. Jim Baird, Ted and his brother Ted, the Baird brothers, another fantastic channel. What a phenomenal adventurer. I can sit and watch these canoeing videos, whether it's Sean or it's Jim Baird or Joe Robinette or the Bearded Woodsman and what he's doing with bushcraft and all these. I could watch them all day long. It's just I find so much peace even in that, to sit back and watch Fowler's Mischief and Makery, fantastic, or Ovens and his channel. I can watch these guys and their trips, all day long. I love it. It's a little bit of peace in this crazy world, and I want to be part of it. I want to experience that as well. I want to get back to when I was a kid enjoying nature. I right up until I was about 18, 19, I spent at least half my life in the woods, and then of course when I was 19, I was in law enforcement for 25 years. I worked as a corrections officer in a number of different prisons throughout Western Canada. And so I started at 19. It's pretty young to start in that environment. Phenomenal experience. I wouldn't trade it. I'm glad I did what I did, and I served my country in uniform in that regard. But it was 25 years, and I got to a point when I was getting around the 20-year mark. I started to sort of hit a wall in that environment. Very poisonous, very negative place to be on a regular basis. So I started to come up with sort of a plan for myself to start my own business, and that business is tree work, and it's a tree service that I started. And it got to the point where I could sustain our life and our way of life outside of corrections and within my own business. So that's what I did. I retired when I was 44. So 4 years ago, almost 5, I guess. And it's been phenomenal. It's been great. It's, that's one way I got back into nature and back into the trees, so to speak. love it. I love, everything about that work. It got to the point where it's so busy, and I'm getting a little older that I can't climb trees as well as I used to. And it got so busy that somebody had to do the day to day business and estimates and all these other things that go with it. Um, so I had to come back from that and do the business end. And as it's turned out, my son, my youngest, has taken over the tree climbing and the arborist work. So that's a huge bonus for the business and just for me in general to have one of my children part of that. So um, and so with that, of course, running a business is challenging enough on its own, and then being so involved politically again, I really need to have that balance and get back into this. So thanks again to those guys, the Jim Bairds and Sean James and Joe Robinette and the bearded woodsman or the wooded beardsman uh, and Fowler's Mischief and Makery and Ovens. All you guys, fantastic stuff. Keep up what you're doing. Can't wait for your next release. But yeah, so I want to be part of that. I thought, okay, so I'm going to do this. I may as well chronicle my adventures as well, and create a YouTube channel. I'm familiar with being a YouTuber and creating content, and I thought, well, I should do this part of my life as well because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy sort of chronicling my experience for others. Especially from the political end of things. I'm trying to educate and inform people as to what's happening, why it's happening, all these things. So if you're here for politics, though, you're on the wrong channel. You want to go to Grizzly Patriot on YouTube. That's my political channel. But if outdoor adventure is your thing, you found the right place. In addition to all those other great channels I mentioned. So yeah, I thought, well, let's do it. Let's create this YouTube channel, and we'll chronicle some of our adventures. Of course, most of our adventures, excuse me, is going to be probably northern Saskatchewan because that's the closest location. I'm in Saskatoon, of course. We're on the prairie, so there's not a lot of opportunity for canoe tripping in the area. Of course, we have the Saskatchewan River. As a matter of fact, we're taking a trip down from Saskatoon all the way to Nipawin within the next week and a half, 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that one. We'll have lots of content created and some videos in that trip. And that'll be a fantastic trip. I've always wanted to take that trip from Saskatoon to Nipawin. Just check it out on Google Maps. It should be a very interesting trip. A lot of history along the mighty Saskatchewan River. And I'll get more specific as we get closer. I'll probably do another video, of course, explaining the trip we're going to take and some of the interesting things we'll be seeing. But so a lot of our footage that I'll be chronicling or taking is going to come from northern Saskatchewan. Of course, we have Saskatchewan's 2/3 forest and lakes and rivers and nature. That type of nature. And so we have, endless amounts of opportunity and trips to take up there. So, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for me as a YouTuber to build this channel. I haven't come across anyone in Saskatchewan that's, sort of doing this kind of thing from a Saskatchewan perspective in northern Saskatchewan. There's a few videos out there, of course, but nobody really dedicated to a lot of it. Of course, I'd still like to get out to other provinces, northern Alberta, BC. Of course, I've spent a lot of time in both those provinces, but I'd like to go to Ontario as well. And I mean, Manitoba's full of lakes and rivers and that sort of thing too. Canada's so vast; it has so much territory, so much wild territory. Northwest Territories, I mean, the Yukon. It's really endless. But I also like to get out to Ontario and with all the videos I see from the guys out in Ontario of the Algonquin and the Temagami and the wood caribou. I mean, it's endless, right? So, but I think, like I said, primarily most of our videos will be Saskatchewan based. And I'm proud to do it. I'm a proud prairie boy. So, that's ultimately at the end of the day, I'm doing something else that I love, other than just politics and my business. Now it's time to add some peace in the mix, and that peace and tranquility, like I said, comes from nature, and I'm going to get back into it. Again, in part, that inspiration, came from people like Sean James and Jim Baird and and these explorers and adventurers. Love it, so inspiring. And then to chronicle that on video and share it with other people, it's fantastic. It's something I'm really looking forward to. At some point, I would like, and again, it's time, but I would like to actually, find a little piece of land up north, some crown land, and mark off my little spot and maybe build a log cabin. We'll see how that goes. Again, I'm a pretty busy guy, but it's definitely in my future at some point. So hopefully we get to that. But for now, it'll be just centered around our sort of outdoor adventures. So if that sounds like something that interests you, hit the subscribe, give it a big thumbs up to this video, and get the notifications, because once we start tripping and taking on some of these adventures, I'll be loading them up and putting them in video form. So other than that, I hope you enjoy it. By all means, I love the comments. I'll interact. Any suggestions, by all means. And if you guys, share this video. Anybody who's going to start watching or following this channel, you're starting from the ground up, right where I am. I have a couple of videos I've already posted, just quick little trips. I bought a new canoe, the Clipper Tripper S. Had to test it out, took it down to the river, went out for a little cruise by myself, and then myself and my wife went out for a little cruise, and so we recorded those and uploaded them. And again, like I said, we're taking this trip from Saskatoon to Nipawin here in a week and a half. So that'll be an amazing trip. And but yeah, so subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. And again, any comments are appreciated. Any suggestions, any of those types of things, I'm open to it. And definitely share this page with other folks that like to watch outdoor adventure from a Saskatchewan perspective. The Griz Outdoors. Ciao for now.